my name is Cody Morey. This is my last journal for leadership, and I decided to type everything so I don't forget what I'm going to say within the 10 minutes. So I'm going to start with the EQ personal characteristics and how this clinical experience helped me grow and develop for self-awareness, self-control, or motivation. So self-awareness and self-confidence were my two areas in my EQ paper that I needed to work on. And in the beginning of clinical, I was very nervous about whether or not I would do a good job. The ER is a busy floor where you need fast critical thinking skills, and so the first day of clinical, I did not know where anything was. I felt like more in the way than trying to help, and I just had no idea what to do. When I have to personally take action in an area where I am weak, the awareness of that weakness comes into play where it's all I think about. I said in my EQ paper that I need to find more confidence as a future nurse to not be afraid to do something even if it does not turn out the way I want it to the first time. Just keep going. As more clinicals pass, I felt more like a help than a burden. I paid attention to the nurse and what she explained to do, and she explained where things were at. I found more confidence in myself with being able to handle situations that challenged me. My confidence improved in the ER, and the more confident I became in myself, and I became more confident in myself and the ability to handle any specific task that was given to me. I became more aware of my surroundings and stayed aware of who needed help and needed things, because in the ER, nurses always need help. So it's not just following my preceptor around, it's following them and helping them around, because there's always a patient needing something, and the nurses are always there to help. There's always a nurse going and doing IV or EKGs, so I was happy to go follow other nurses to do other things, to learn other things. The next question was about empathy. So empathy can be broken up into understanding others, developing others, service orientation, leveraging diversity, and political awareness. Social skills was a dimension correlated with empathy and competence in EQ. I used my social skills to communicate and interact with people both verbally and non-verbally through gestures, body language, and personal appearance. I used my social skills to create better relationships with my nurse and my patients, and I learned to communicate effectively with both. There are a lot of situations that happen in the ER, so I learned how to be empathetic and understand the feelings of patients and their families. I tried to care for their needs and listen to what they had to say. During a traumatic event or when something's wrong with a patient, sometimes the patient and their family do not know what is going on, and they tend to freak out sometimes, or they're very needy. I tried to show empathy towards them and telling them that, hey, I'm here for them. I'm here to help. If you need anything, hey, let me know. I know as a student, I'm not a nurse and I can't do things like a nurse can, but I can give them things like a blanket or even my ears to have for them to listen. For one of my two meaningful experiences that contributed to growth in my leadership skills and confidence as a nursing student nearing graduation as a BSN, sorry, that was the question, would be that I have seen two people die in clinical, and I have learned from the nurses on how to be empathetic to the family and to other healthcare providers that were around also during the trauma. I am happy I did experience that situation, because I didn't know how to think or feel during or after it all happened, and I think if I never experienced it before graduating, then I would have experience it as a nurse on the floor on my own, and I think that would have been a lot more scarier for me. I am more confident and more comfortable in how to handle the situations like that, and I know that it is hard during and after a situation like that occurs, but it is important as a future nurse to let things go and to know that good and bad things happen to people at all the time, and it is okay. It is okay to feel mad, sad, angry, built up, or nothing at all. But I've learned that with people having a hard time, it is important to reach out to other nurses or other people to help get past the situation. So another situation was when I was taking care of an MS patient. The patient was responsive with sounds and gestures, but cannot speak to me or my nurse with how to communicate his care and his needs. All he did was just make sounds and was in pain with the sounds that he made. But he had a caregiver, so the caregiver was a huge help. And as a future nurse, I know that I will be taking care of all sorts of people with a variety of different problems. So I need to be empathetic to every single one of those patients and help them in the best way that I can. I have never taken care of an MS patient like that, or someone like that knew what was going on but couldn't tell me personally what was going on, and someone that also tried to rip out their IV. I never had that happen, but I learned that day that being a future nurse and as a future nurse on how to take sensitive care of patients and how to still explain everything I am doing, even if they cannot talk verbally on whether they or not they like it or they want it. I learned that with people with problems like MS, sensitive care has to be given so that you do not traumatize them, because everything will freak them out, even something little like a blood pressure. And you don't want to freak somebody out at the hospital, because the hospital is there to help and care for you. Time management was another question. I was unable to meet with my preceptor until the beginning, so it was a little hard to time manage my time and my schedule with her schedule. But when I did have my first clinical, things changed. We planned out our schedule together, see what worked with, and things went smoothly from there. She was very easygoing and made this clinical experience really worthwhile. I reached out to my preceptor to let her know what days I was coming in. She would stay in contact with me if days she wasn't coming in or days she was down-staffed. So managing my hours I thought would be a lot harder, but it was pretty easy. I enjoyed this clinical with my in the ER with my clinical preceptor, and I did not mind going at all. In fact, I was supposed to do a 12, and I split them up into 2 days, 6-hour shifts, so that I can get more time on the floor, a different day to feel around what it was about, and I just wanted to be on the floor a little more. I time managed well with the department as well. It took me a few shifts to figure out how to do things and to know where things were at. When my nurse asked me to get her multiple things after knowing where things were at, I tried to time manage and get everything she needed in the least amount of time possible. In the future, this clinical helped with time managing my skills, because I know how long it takes me to get somewhere now and to time manage to get there. And this really helped with knowing how to create my schedule and how to move things around to fit things in my schedule. So next I'm going to talk about course outcomes. I want to talk about 2 course objectives that I met. First one is that I collaborated with the team to set, attain, and evaluate goal achievement in leadership and/or supervision of safe quality healthcare delivery. I learned something new with each patient I had with my nurse, and she worked with the other nurses to keep the ER flowing. Every patient she had, she would explain what she was doing before we stepped foot in the room. She would explain each medication she was giving, as well as if I understood what it does and why the patient needed it. So she was sure to make sure that to explain everything to me. She made sure that she set, attained, and evaluated safe quality care. She made sure that if I was doing anything on a patient, she was there to supervise and correct me or help me improve. The entire time I spent with her in clinical, she showed me and just showed safe quality care. And if she delegated a test to anyone like a nurse or a tech, that she made sure that safe quality care was given. Another objective that my nurse helped me succeed was to apply professional and ethical behaviors, which reflect awareness, assertiveness, accountability, and advocacy in the delivery and/or supervision of healthcare delivery in a complex healthcare environment. So the ER is a complex environment, and it is nothing like any other clinical I've ever done. This clinical, I felt, really involved me with the care and the ability to learn. I became more self-aware of myself and my surroundings. I became more assertive with my actions when performing care for patients. One thing I really liked doing was tube labeling for my nurse, so I helped tube label for my preceptor when she was drawing labs. I was accountable for what I labeled that was getting sent down to the lab. I was assertive with what time to put on the tubes and when to put ice on lactic acids. I felt professional with tube labeling because it was something that an ER nurse does all the time and frequently, so I thought I was a nurse at the time and doing an important task, so it was great. I made sure the time and initials were on there before sending it down. I made sure I made sure it was the correct patient that I was on the sticker, and I made sure that the sticker was the correct way to be sent down because I didn't want the labs to get sent back. So yeah, I really learned a lot with this clinical, and I love my preceptor in this clinical, and I feel so much more confident with working on the floor as a future nurse. I have so much more confidence with performing and taking care of patients. I am so excited to be close to almost being done, and this is my with this semester and moving on to my last semester, and so I'm excited to see what my next semester has to offer with acute and critical care. Thank you very much.